last but not least, normally alphabetically, ICA goes first, but I'm not quite sure how we've got it this way around. Emilie, over to you for ICA.
Thank you very much, Peter. And thank you to those who spoke before me from IFLA, ICOM, and ICOMOS. I get to sort of, I guess, round us out and try not to repeat some of the same comments and the same importance that we all strive for as being part of Blue Shield. On behalf of David Fricker, ICA's president, congratulations to Blue Shield on its 25th anniversary. And we emphasize the commitment of ICA to Blue Shield in its effort to recognize the importance of and the need to protect cultural property. David Fricker wrote, ICA values our role as one of the Blue Shield's founding four. We understand the profound disruption that can occur when individuals and communities are denied access to the cultural identity through acts of war, terrorism, political unrest, and/or natural disasters. For ICA, we are particularly concerned with the protection and preservation of the archives that serve as memory and evidence of our past to provide the principal means of transmitting authentic, evidence-based knowledge from one generation to the next. On this occasion of the 25th anniversary of Blue Shield, the ICA proudly reaffirms our shared commitment with our partners to ensure that all of humanity retains our sense of our identity and shared values through the protection of cultural knowledge for the benefit of future generations. And I had asked David to send me a few words on his behalf since he would not be able to attend this meeting in person. Before I begin, I would also like to recognize the contributions of George McKenzie and his work on representing ICA when Blue Shield was created. And it's been a real pleasure to know him and to hear his thoughts on how Blue Shield came about and what the contributions and how the founding four were there at the very beginning. As Peter recognized earlier, my name is Dr. Emilie Gagnet Leumas, and I am the representative to the International Council on Archives on the executive board of Blue Shield. The International Council on Archives was established under the auspices of UNESCO on the 9th of June, 1948. Its mission is to promote the preservation and use of archives around the world. In pursuing this mission, ICA works for the protection and enhancement of the memory of the world and to improve communication while respecting cultural diversity. Archives are an incredible resource. They are the documentary byproduct of human activity, and as such, are an irreplaceable witness to past events, underpinning democracy, the identity of individuals and communities, and human rights. But they are also fragile and vulnerable, as many of us have seen as we've gone out and done work in the field. ICA strives to protect and ensure access to archives through advocacy, setting standards, professional development, and enabling dialogue between archivists, policymakers, creators, and users of archives. ICA promotes the central role of record keeping and archives in protecting the rights of individuals and states and in supporting democracy and good governance through working for the effective management of archives from the moment of their creation and the permanent preservation of archives as the documented memory of nations and societies and the widest possible public access to that memory. It strives to build a better understanding across societies through fostering international cooperation while respecting linguistic and cultural diversity. And again, as I said, in going out in the field with the destruction that we've seen, people need their identity. And the only way to get to that is through those documents and through that documentary heritage. Identity is critical. We've seen this in the tsunamis. We've seen this during the hurricanes, especially in the Caribbean and in the United States. People can't get to their identity. Bare bones pieces of paper to show who they are. Whether they live in an electronic format, they don't have internet. They can't get to that during these times. And while they're in an evacuation state, they need those documents. It's critical for them to have that. ICA advocates for the importance of archives and records management to policymakers while providing opportunities for professional contact, information exchanges, research, and education, and while taking a leadership role in developing best practices and standards which support records and archives professionals throughout the world. It is a central source of information on archives and the archival profession for society. For more than 60 years, ICA has united archival institutions and practitioners across the globe to advocate for good archival management and the physical protection of recorded heritage to produce reputable standards and best practices. As a member of the founding four of the International Committee of the Blue Shield, ICA works closely with its sister organizations to protect cultural heritage during military conflicts and natural and man-made disasters. With approximately 2,000 members in 199 countries and territories, the Council's ethos is to harness the cultural diversity of its membership to deliver effective solutions and a flexible, imaginative profession. ICA governance is in the hands of two main bodies, the General Assembly, which is the highest decision-making body in the ICA and decides on long-term strategic directions, as well as the management of the organization. In between the General Assemblies, responsibility for ICA's performance lies within the Executive Board, which implements the General Assembly's decisions and, if necessary, proposes adjustments to the strategic directions. Within ICA, and in particular its professional program, there are expert groups, professional sections, and regional branches. Of perhaps particular interest to the endeavors of Blue Shield is the ICA Expert Group on Emergency Management and Disaster Preparedness, which was established in 2014. And I have had the honor of chairing this group since its inception. And it is part of that work that brings me to Blue Shield. The main goals of the expert group are to coordinate initiatives and exchange good practices in the field of emergency management and disaster preparedness. And we do this through trainings, which include helping with mitigation, planning, response, and recovery. We also facilitate professional mobilization and archival solidarity when disaster strikes. We are in the process of developing an online training course, and in the past several years, we have developed a manual for emergency management and disaster preparedness, which has a workbook section. And this is currently slated for publication in 2022. The draft we have used since 2018 in all of our trainings. We do our work through facilitating training and workshops, researching and making available existing resources in different languages, assisting in the compilation of disaster plans and case studies for future dissemination, and advocating for the protection of cultural heritage patrimony. As part of its work in the past 7 years, this expert group has conducted and participated in trainings, seminars, workshops, throughout the global archival community. And I'd like to highlight just a few of the things and the contributions that we've made. We've helped in the Caribbean area to establish the Caribbean Heritage Emergency Network, which coordinates and collaborates with the different island nations so that they have a network. And this has been really critical, especially lately with the with not only the hurricanes, the mudslides, the volcano that erupted, and this network has really been critical in that area. I have also, even during COVID, been able to travel to Senegal to work with UNESCO in the field of doing some training, and that, even with its challenges, has been extremely rewarding. We've also worked collaboratively with other NGOs, including our sister organizations represented here at Blue Shield. And we've done this in the field to establish those emergency networks, especially the one that I just mentioned in the Caribbean. We've also worked in Australia, in the Pacific Island area, in particular through our work with Parbico, one of our branches. In 2018, after the devastating hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, fires, and floods that wreaked havoc on many archives and cultural heritage institutions, ICA established an international disaster fund for archives to aid in the stabilization and recovery needs of archival institutions affected by catastrophic events. The fund provides assistance in three main areas. First, the fund provides small grant monies to any repository that holds archival records on special collections. These monies may be used for the direct recovery of damaged or at-risk materials and to defray the cost for volunteers or other laborers who assist with the recovery. Second, the fund provides advice and assistance via consultation with experts to archival repositories seeking information about response and recovery, such as setting up triage areas, drying wet materials, conservation and preservation of damaged material. And as I mentioned before, with the volcano that erupted in the Caribbean, this was through WhatsApp that we were providing information. ICOM and ICOMOS both, as well as ICA and IFLA, we were all using our WhatsApp and our collaborative efforts to provide information to those island nations on how to respond after the eruption of the volcano, especially the neighboring islands that were receiving the fallout from the ash. Third, the fund provides monies to support the deployment, when the disaster region is deemed safe to enter, of a group or a team of archival experts to provide hands-on guidance in response and recovery. And again, we've done this in more recent times in the Caribbean area as well as in the Pacific Islands. The expert group on emergency management and disaster preparedness is just one example of ICA's engagement in the field of protecting documentary heritage. There are many other examples surrounding climate change, which has come to the forefront and which demands our recognition and our work immediately in order to continue to mitigate the fallout from climate change. We've worked with archival repositories and environments to make sure that those environments are stable in light of the different types of changes that are going on. And we also have examples that surround our human rights and the work in human rights that documentary heritage also is important in that field. So we've worked with these expert groups, professional sections, and regional branches to bring about this work to that forefront. In closing, I want to reiterate a few things that some of the other sister organizations have brought up, and I think it's very important. I've written down that quote: "Global challenges demand global responses and collaboration." So in closing, let me reiterate the commitment of the International Council on Archives to the preservation and use of archives around the world. It is through this commitment and the collaborative network of organizations such as Blue Shield that protection and preservation of cultural heritage will remain at the forefront of this shared mission. Thank you, Peter, and others.
Emilie, thank you very much indeed. That's been fantastic.